How's it going, everyone? I'm Keegs, and today I am back to talk about episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, it starts off with Obi-Wan being dragged to Jabim to get in a bacta tank, which I thought was a little weird because I was pretty sure Vader let him go at the end of episode 3 because he assumed Obi-Wan had nowhere to go or hide or no way to get off-world because they had blockades. And nope, that's not the case at all. They actually went to a few different locations with a lot of ease this episode. I was really expecting a flashback episode while he soaked in the bacta tank and then kind of, had a little Hayden Christensen flashbacks in there, but nope, we didn't get that, and it doesn't really seem like we're going to be getting a flashback episode at all, considering there's only 2 episodes left, and I feel like things are really going to start picking up in the next 2 episodes, and there's probably not going to be any time now for a flashback episode. But we saw him in the bacta tank, and it was kind of cut together with him and Vader, and you saw like he was burned kind of bad, but like didn't really hold a candle to Vader's burns, and he's going through some PTSD and gets out before he's healed and everything. So that's where he ended up on Jabim, and he realized, oh crap, they took Leia, obviously, it's time to go get her back. Leia, meanwhile, is getting interrogated by the third sister, and she is doing a fabulous job of not revealing anything and making sure that Reva's mind tricks aren't working. I'm pretty sure that she is subconsciously using the Force to kind of wall her memory off and just doesn't know it. Obviously, Reva's not picking up that she's Force sensitive. In fact, I don't think anybody in this series is going to pick up that she's Force sensitive, just to kind of stick with how the canon works. But I really think that she has done a really good job at showing just how, kind of badass and smartass she is for being a 10-year-old girl. Somehow Tala is able to fly into the Fortress Inquisitorius without like any kind of background checks or clearance codes or anything, but she gets off. But even weirder to me was that she kind of manhandles one of the security guards into letting her pass, even though I really feel like, there was just a lot of sloppiness going on in the Empire where they just kind of waltz into the fortress without any real obstacles. She did mention, though, the Grand Inquisitor, which I think is supposed to hint that he's actually still alive and he's probably going to come back super pissed off at Reva. I still am putting my money on him being the one to take Reva out, just being pissed off when he comes back. But that list is getting longer and longer because all of these people are starting to really dislike Reva. All of the Inquisitors, Darth Vader, the Resistance, Obi-Wan, Leia. So the list just keeps growing every episode. We saw Obi-Wan going underwater with his little breather, which is a straight callback to episode 1 when he did that to get into the Gungans place. And it's also kind of a callback for how Cal Kestis got into the fortress in Jedi Fallen Order. I didn't love how Tala was just straight up talking to Obi-Wan through her mic when there were other people there. It seemed a little dumb, but let's just get to the craziest part of what I think this episode was. Obi-Wan discovers the bodies of a ton of Jedi that the Inquisitors have presumably captured, frozen, killed, basically as trophies, and their lightsabers are also displayed. I recognize that the first person they showed was actually someone from the Clone Wars, and the little kid was, I think, one of the little kids that was the little Padawans with Reva when she was trying to escape, which is pretty gruesome for, to, show a little Padawan like that being hunted down. But I think it does allude to the fact that Reva never made it out of the temple. Since that kid was still wearing his helmet, he was presumably captured in the same scene we saw of him in the very beginning of part 1. But the rest of them I definitely did not recognize, so if anybody did recognize them, I would really be interested to hear about that if you want to leave a comment down below. Obi-Wan has a pretty sweet rescue of Leia when he cuts all the lights off, strikes one of the stormtroopers down, and then turns off his lightsaber to go into hiding and then come at the other one. Tala tries to lie to the third sister, who immediately calls her on her BS, and then Obi-Wan and Leia make a run for it. And this is what I thought was probably the best thing done in the entire episode, was you could literally see Obi-Wan getting better with the Force as he used it. he started off a little slow and shaky, but as he kept kind of deflecting bolts, you saw him starting to deflect more, starting to deflect the bolts back at the stormtroopers, and by the end, he's like hitting switches, and he's got the force to hold the water at least for a little while, and I really feel like they did an amazing job at showing his slow progression back into becoming a force user. And he's on Nur, the moon outside of the Mustafar system, which is heavy in the dark side, so really this is the hardest place for him to use his side of the force, just because it's almost like he's walking through a slog trying to get his mind past the dark side emotions of that place. I thought it was a little bit funny how a single blaster bolt was able to get through the window. I feel like it's kind of a design flaw of something. If just a single blaster bolt is enough to kind of cave that entire area in, I guess it can cut it off on both sides to contain it, but all I could think was really the maintenance worker that was probably coming in right after that, and it's like, son of a bitch, I just fixed this like a few years ago when Cal Kestis ran through and he was trying to escape Vader, and he blew up a damn window too and flooded the whole building, and now I got another Jedi coming in here doing the exact same thing in probably the same freaking corridor. What are the chances of that? Anyways, Obi-Wan and the crew go to leave through the hangar, and I don't understand how all of the Imperial officers or troops didn't hear the alarm going off, but I guess you could say, you know, the fortress was really big, so it was on a different section, so they didn't hear it. But what I really don't understand is how they didn't see that Obi-Wan was clearly walking around with a little girl under his jacket. I feel like that's almost another level of negligence and kind of obliviousness by the Imperial troops. And then it basically ends with them getting trapped, but then bailed out by some other random resistance fighters that show up at the end. And Darth Vader tries to choke out Reva until she reveals that she put a tracker on Leia's droid, Lola, I think. And yeah, that's kind of how it ended. This episode wasn't bad, but it was definitely my least favorite of the 4 we've gotten so far, and I was pretty disappointed that it was only 30 minutes. I was really hoping it was going to be longer than that, and I was a little dissatisfied with how incompetent I felt the Empire was at a few parts throughout the episode. They were able to get off the planet with no trouble. They were able to get into the fortress with no trouble. They were able to get Leia with no trouble. They were able to get out of the fortress with a little bit of trouble, but then they were bailed out by some random resistance fighters, so really no trouble there either. I think shit's about to really start getting real though in the last 2 episodes here, and I absolutely cannot wait to watch them. So every week just feels like a grind to get to next Wednesday, but I am just so excited still. But let me know, what do you think about this episode? What do you think about the series as a whole so far? I'm Keegs, and I will catch you all next week for some more Obi-Wan Kenobi content.